Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a knitting embroidery type of technique called duplicate knitting. You can see I have some stockings hanging back there. Those were to replace these kind of crappy felt style stockings that we had. We've had them for forever, my husband and I. And initially I was just looking for another one of these this size to make for Penelope, because if you guys weren't aware, we have a new member of the house, Penelope, my daughter. This will be her first Christmas, so she doesn't have a stocking yet, or she didn't have a stocking yet. So I was just gonna do one of these first and then do Penelope, to personalize it. But I couldn't find just like a single one of these for sale anywhere. They were always like a pack of a bunch of them, and I only needed one, and I needed a big one. So through my search, I found this set of 3 back here, really nice looking knit stocking. So I got them, and to personalize them, I used the technique called duplicate stitching to embroider our names on. They used to be just like a solid red cuff, but now our names are in white. And with this technique, it looks like they were knit this way, so it's really nice. I really like using this technique to personalize knit items. And actually, this could be a perfect way to personalize or customize knit pieces to fit your needs. Whether it's a gift for someone, which is kind of perfect because it's the holiday season, if you need gift ideas, or if you just wanted to make something cool for yourself. So anyway, I'm gonna show you guys how I did those. Here they are. They each have their own little design, which is cute. And then up here, I want to do a technique called duplicate knitting to do our names. And actually, I already did it on this one for me. Funny thing, we decided that this was going to be Jason's, and then this was going to be mine. And then I did the embroidery, and I held it up to look at my nice work and saw that I did it on the wrong one. But I did all this work, so I guess now this one is mine. But anyway, you can kind of see, I haven't done this technique in a while, and at first I did the R, so it looks all kind of rough. And then I did the rest of my name like all together, so it looks a lot better. But yeah, this one's going to be Jason's. I have a little needle right here to kind of mark where I'm going to start. And then this one will be Penelope's. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll show you guys how I do it. As you can see, you can't really see what's going on. The knit on these stockings is super tiny, so it's kind of hard to see exactly what I'm doing. Because of this, I ended up making a swatch with chunky yarn so that hopefully it's easier to tell what I'm doing. Also, I didn't bother binding off the swatch because I'm hoping that after this I can undo it and save all of this yarn for future projects. I actually kind of want to make like a beanie or something out of this, So first, you should have a chart of the design that you want to do. I just drew like a simple circle on this grid, and actually these kinds of designs can get squished when you translate it from the drawn chart to the knit piece. So if you're making your own design, you might want to stretch it to be a little bit longer. And actually, if you have the time, you probably should be doing this anyway. I recommend maybe doing a little swatch of a square, maybe like 5 by 5 stitches or something like that, so you can kind of see, just how squashed it can get. So you should add 1 or 2 stitches to the length to get the look you want. So for on these guys, I just used a pixelized font to make the chart, and then I ended up stretching it quite a bit actually. The original font was only like a couple pixels tall, and I stretched it out to be quite a bit taller. So for this, I'm going to start at the bottom right corner of this design. Find where you want to start on the knit fabric. Here looks good. and thread through from the back at the base of that stitch. Leave a couple inches at the end so that you can weave it in when you finish. I guess just really quick, I can try to explain to you the anatomy of knit. So for a stitch, there's a right loop and the left loop and the horizontal bar that's at the bottom, which is actually the top of the stitch underneath of it, if that makes sense. So when you are threading through from the back to the base of this stitch, you want to make sure that you're going underneath the bar of that stitch. Because when you're going to stitch through, that bar is what's going to be holding that yarn in place. If you didn't go underneath that bar, then when you pull the yarn through, it will just look really weird and not like a knit stitch. Anyway, this is the stitch that's going to be basically covered with this new yarn. From here, thread through the loops above that, right loop and the left loop of the stitch above, like so. And once you pull it through, you can see that this yarn now covers this one side of the stitch. To finish off the stitch, thread the needle back through the base of the stitch, under the bar, and then you can see the first stitch is done. And you want to be careful about pulling this yarn too hard. You want the yarn to lay on top of the old stitch, and if you pull it too hard, it'll kind of make it sit next to the stitch, so that you'll still see the original yarn coming through. If you do pull it too hard, just try to kind of pull it back out using the needle to help you. And now onto the next stitch, which for me is directly to the left of the first one. Thread through the base of the stitch, and like before, thread through the loops above, pull through, and then thread through the base again. And actually, since my next stitch is to the left again, I threaded from the base of the stitch that I just finished straight to the base of the next stitch, right next to it. And then I repeated these steps from before to finish the stitch. The next stitch for me is diagonally to the left, so I threaded through the base of that stitch, and like before, threaded through the loops above, pulled through, etc., etc. You'll notice here though that instead of threading through the right loop and then the left loop, I went through the left loop and then the right loop. You want to thread through the loops in the direction that you're working. So for the first row, I was going from right to left, so I went through the right loop, then the left loop. And on this row, I'm working from left to right, so I'm going from the left loop to the right loop. And then when I move on to the next row, again, it'll be right to left, and then the next one, left to right, etc., as you go on through your design. So basically, you want to just keep stitching according to the chart. And I actually find it easier to work on a piece that's turned on its side like this. I find it a little awkward to thread and pull the yarn through when the design is facing up, which in the footage of me working on the stockings, you can see in a lot of it I have them to the side because that's just easier for me. But for the sake of this video, I tried keeping it straight up and down so that it's hopefully easier for you guys to follow. And from here, I feel like it's pretty straightforward now, besides me constantly getting hung up on the knitting needles, but typically you won't have this problem. Again, I didn't want to bind off this knit swatch, so the knitting needle is still there, and the one in the bottom, I have it there to help keep it flat and not curl up, because I didn't do the normal thing that you do with swatches, where you do a knit purl knit edge, but oh well. And here, I'm just showing you that if you flip it upside down, you can kind of see that when you're going from the base of one stitch to the other next to it, it's almost like you're stitching through the top loops of the stitch in order to work the one underneath it, if that makes any sense. Totally ignore this if it's confusing you, but in my head, thinking about it this way helps me visualize how to continue stitching, basically. So yeah, that's basically it, the duplicate stitch. I'll continue working this design until I'm done so that you can see the final product. I really love this technique because since you're essentially just following the original knit stitches, the embroidered stitches that you're adding stretch along with the original knit fabric. Of course, it'll be thicker in the area that you're adding the design to because now there's basically double the amount of yarn, but it still ends up looking pretty seamless. I've seen people who do some really complicated designs with this technique. I personally have only done simple one color designs like lettering and shapes, so maybe one day I'll graduate to trying to do like a big design on a sweater or something. So anyway, here it is all done. You can see what I meant about the design getting squished. It doesn't look like a circle like it's supposed to, it's more of an oval shape. And here you can see how nicely it stretches with the rest of the fabric. And here's what the back looks like. And what? Apparently I didn't pull this loop through all the way. Oops. If this were a real piece that I was working on, and I had a big enough loop like this, then I would just cut it in the middle and then weave in those ends. And I guess if I had a smaller loop, then I probably would just like sew it down to tack it down. But anyway, for the real ends, just weave them in. And this is how I learned how to weave in ends. Basically, you're just following the stitches. It's kind of really similar to what you did on the knit side, really. So the yarn is coming through here, and what you want to do is follow this yarn loop around and through these loops diagonally, like so, and then from there follow the loop around and then back through diagonally like so, and then around, and you just repeat this a couple times and you're done. So here's how our stockings turn out. Once you get the hang of this stitch and get into the groove of it, it can go pretty quick. Actually, for this video, I thought that I was only going to be able to finish one of these stockings in time. But as you can see, I finished all 3 of them. And I just love how these turned out. So now I just gotta figure out a good place to hang them in the house. I have them hanging here, but this is my craft room, and I basically just set that up so that I had a nice backdrop. We don't have a fireplace, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys were able to learn how to do this duplicate stitching. I feel like once you get the hang of it, it becomes super easy to do. And yeah, if you did like this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks.